Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of the show. This one, I've been professionally persistent to get this one on the show. She's been a busy person and trending some really important things. My guest is the 39th president of Athens State University, Dr. Catherine Welberg. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited about the conversation we're going to have.
Yes, as I am as well. Tell me just generally, what's it like to be you right now in this seat?
So, Athens State University is a little bit of a different institution from the 4,000 other colleges and
You've been
universities.
around for a while.
We've been around since 1822, and so we are the oldest continuously operating institution in the state of Alabama. And because of that, the institution has recreated itself several different times, from a private institution to a Methodist institution to a women's college to what we are today, which is an upper division, mostly upper division institution that focuses on transfer students, working adults, and some applied master's degrees. And we really work in that space with flexibility and accessibility for our students.
That is the pursuit angle here, because I have not bumped into a campus that provides those kinds of services as their true focal point. The other thing that I see is, because of just demand and profitability, most campuses are really struggling right now. You've got a nice little upward trend of enrollment as well. What's going on? What's in the water system there?
Well, we are seeing an upward tick in enrollment. Now, it's not as big as any president would want to see, because we always want more. But we are definitely seeing an uptick in enrollment, and in the students who are finding us and realizing that they can truly finish what they started.
Yes.
Many of our students are working adults. They have families. They have responsibilities. But they've always wanted to finish their bachelor's degree or get their master's degree, or they're in a job that is requiring them to have more information, more knowledge, more credentialing, and so they're coming back to that.
So you don't really have freshman orientation.
We do not have freshmen, and we do not have freshman orientation. No.
Wow, only students who have already started a degree someplace else or just stopped.
Yes.
And yeah, wow, so much to learn. I would imagine you're just amazed at the humans that you get to bump into on campus, because everyone is a singular important story.
We have when we have commencement, we have a lot of our courses that are online or hybrid. So when we see large groups of students together, it's at events like commencement or some of our other types of things that we have on campus. And when you talk to the students and their families, the reasons that they came back to school are varied. And we had a commencement of about two years ago, I guess, at this point. And I'm on stage, and a student's walking across the stage to greet the president, shake hands, and all that kind of thing. And their name is called, and you heard a voice from the back of the auditorium that said, "That's my daddy."
Oh my goodness.
And it was like, that touched me and still does to this day, because it made me realize yet again that we're not just impacting our students. We're definitely impacting our students, but we are impacting their families, their neighborhoods, their communities. And when you think about how education can be transformative, and I truly believe education is transformative. When we focus on these students who are who may have tried and failed before. They may have, had health issues. They may have had family members who had health issues, or there's a huge number of reasons why they
Right.
opted out before. But the fact that they are saying, this is important to me, and I'm going to do it, and it's important to my family. And many of our students, when they graduate, they say that they want to be a role model to their kids, and that also just speaks so loudly to me of the importance of what they're doing and the work that they're doing to finish their degree. And I'm just so proud of what we do here at Athens State, that we get to be a part of those stories.
I'm getting kind of emotional just thinking about that story times all the stories out there. And you've sat in a few roundtables and we've had some good discussions. I just love just picking your brain and being in that space with you. You're a very imaginative thinker. But much of our conversations, I think, in education is okay. They're not making any more 18-year-olds. So how do we tighten the pipelines for our 18-year-olds? We're not thinking really in the stratosphere that you are living in right now. And just this infinity loop, I see this infinity loop of you never get to graduate from the school of learning.
Right.
Learning happens in all places, all times, and you're an institution that just keeps the door wide open to say when you're ready.
That's
When
right.
you're ready.
And, many institutions have in their mission statement something about lifelong learning. And not every institution really does focus on that lifelong learning piece. And
Many times we're recruiting around those lifelong
yeah.
learners.
Mhm.
Right, and they become, like, just numbers or, mean honestly, I've gotten dropped off by a number of Uber drivers to campuses that I'm working at, um, well into the adult ages of people driving me to campus who said, "I once was a student there," not when I was in 18, 19, 20, no, no, when I was in my 30s, and n nobody really saw me.
Yep. Yep. So we have about 3,000 students any given semester. Not all of our students take classes every semester because of their life schedules. So across an academic year, we have about 4,000 students who are actively taking classes, and students will come in. They'll take a few classes. They may get. We're adding more and more micro credentials so that there are particular points where this is your goal, and then you achieve that goal. Then you're going to come back later maybe and get that next goal so that they stack. And so we've got our students, and they are coming back. We also have developed a learning partners program with industry.
Yes, I was wondering, is that just a myth out there where
Hmm.
if I go to work, will my employer actually pay me to go to school?
Hmm.
Is that a real thing?
And absolutely, there are many employers that will do tuition reimbursement or something like that. But what we do is we identify um, corporations or industry partners or chambers of commerce or things like that. And what we do is we sign a learning partnership, which gives all of their employees and their employees' families a tuition discount, and it gives us entree into that organization,
Mm.
so that we can send our recruiters in there. We can provide information to them about some of our degree programs. And we also have a catalog of our faculty and staff expertise. So if that industry wants to have somebody come in and talk about cybersecurity, or developing your own personal brand, or something like that, we've got faculty and staff with that expertise, and they can go in and do like a lunch and learn, or an hour workshop, or something like that. And that does several things. One, we're teaching our community, regardless of whether it's for credit or non-credit. We are educating our community, but we're also being seen as the educators of
Right.
our community. So when somebody wants to go to take a class or get some information, I want them to think about Athens State first, because we have amazing faculty and staff who have incredible credentials and just incredible experience. But we are able to kind of bring in some of the adult learners that way, but we are really educating our community, which is part of our mission, part of what we do, part of how we focus on that. And we're also providing that tuition discount to the employee and their family, so that we hopefully are modeling that value of education. And
What
that
a wonderful model.
and that's one of the reasons why we're seeing some increases, is that this is one way to talk to adult students or adult learners who
Right,
want
right,
students,
right.
and show them that there's a pathway.
Two words just popped up in my head. Both, I mean, the importance of visibility, so people know where you're at or who you are, right? Because people don't follow the blinky sign; they follow real people
Mhm.
that have influence and have access and are kind of interesting as well. So that visibility piece, but then viability, that's just your competence and credibility. So when you're in that space, you're actually helping people solve their own problems.
Absolutely.
My big question, go ahead, you go, and then I've got another question around that.
Because and we also are able to find some amazing adjuncts who are in that space and have credentials, and we can bring them in to be guest lecturers or to teach a whole class because of their expertise.
You're solving problems that most campuses are like, we cannot find qualified adjuncts. Well, you've got a system that just regenerates this pipeline.
Yeah.
I love that. Love it. So the question I would have, you've got expertise on campus. How much of that expertise on campus is influenced by your industry partner?
So one of the things that we are doing more of is looking at the ways that our boards of visitors work, because our boards of visitors are volunteered. Each college has a board of visitors that is made up of people from the community with expertise in that area, and so being able to bring in experts in the area to be kind of almost an advisory council, to say, oh, we need more students who can do this or that. We don't need this anymore. That's so last year. And so it keeps our faculty aware of changes in industry, whether that's software changes or we have a great contracts and acquisitions program, and we are in North Alabama. And there is a lot of government contracting that goes on in North Alabama. And as you know, government contracting rules are changing constantly. So this is one of the ways that we make sure that everything that we are teaching is aligned with what students need to learn, and really truly with what they want to learn with that.
There's so much to this model. I'm wondering, you should almost write a book about it.
Well, there
There's a
you go.
there's a segue. There's a segue.
Well, the other thing that we've done is we have a traditional sabbatical program. And we have now changed or added to that traditional sabbatical program. And most sabbatical programs, as you and everyone listening knows, is focused on scholarship, and research and writing and those kinds of things. We added an industry focused scholarship so that our faculty can take a semester or 2 semesters and go back into the workforce to either shadow someone or visit lots of different types of industry, to make those connections and to make sure that when they're going back into the classroom and talking to their students, they're talking about this is really what happens. And this is truly the day-to-day working of someone who is an elementary school teacher, for example. If you talk to somebody who was an elementary school teacher, 25 years ago, and they haven't been back in the classroom, a lot has changed. And helping to prepare our students for that means that our education faculty have been in the classroom and are regularly knowledgeable about that. The same thing in the College of Business. One of our logistics instructors also owns a trucking company. And so when he talks about logistics, he's talking about, well, this is what happened yesterday, and
Right.
this is what we're dealing with right now. And he has one of the most interesting lectures that I heard on why did we run out of toilet paper during COVID? And of course, I was like, "Oh yes, explain to me why we ran out of toilet paper."
Everybody's leaning in. Yeah, and
And
it really wasn't about toilet paper, my guess.
it was the logistics piece of
Yeah.
it and where things were going. And to hear him talk about it, it just opens up all these doors about how important logistics is to everything that we do. And our students are learning from people who are doing the work.
I want to shift gears here a little bit. Every president has a bit of a life story that makes them intensely interesting. Your father was a theater professor,
He was,
right,
yes,
at UF.
At
for,
University of Florida. Yep.
yeah,
Yes.
3 decades.
Yes.
Lighting and design,
Lighting and
which
design.
is not front of stage, it's the backstage,
Right.
right? And, hey, friends, quick question before we get back to it. I know that you have talented people on your leadership team, but is your team actually performing to its full potential? Most aren't, and most don't know why. The Team Intelligence Assessment is a solution to change that. Find out where your team stands at higherperformancegroup.com. Go to find your starting point to get started today, or click the QR code in the screen right here. All right, back to the show. Hundreds of productions, and my guess is that you were part of just on the ground floor. A lot of presidents come from outside the system to work in the system. You've never really, I mean, you lived in the system. How does that perspective give you maybe a different perspective than another college president sitting in your seat?
Well, I think that we're in a time right now where academic freedom and how and what faculty teach is under some pretty intense scrutiny.
Yeah.
And as someone who has grown up, as you say, with my dad as a faculty member, and kind of being in that world from day one, has and I was a faculty member. I had tenure, and then I became a department chair, and I kind of went up through the traditional academic ranks to get to this point. Means that when we talk about academic freedom and we talk about how and what and the ways that our faculty are teaching, I truly understand that, and I have been in those exact shoes many different times, and so I think that it gives me a different insight into how faculty life is, and the struggles with that. I had a colleague at another institution years ago who could not understand the work that faculty were doing because they were only teaching 2 classes, and so that's 6 hours a week. So what are they doing with the rest of their hours? And I know what they're doing with the rest of those hours and then some, because it is not a 9 to 5 job. You've got grading, you've got office hours, you've got students who need something, and so that I think has been very helpful in that perspective, to really understand the workings of all that. I also was the director of a teaching learning center.
Oh, interesting.
And so pedagogically, how we teach, how we create learning environments, is very much a part of what I live. And I was also a director of accreditation and assessment. And so looking at the accreditation process and how we have to go through that and become a better institution because we're actually looking at our outcomes and using our outcomes for improvement. So there's a lot of pieces that I think help me do a better job in what I'm doing. At least I hope I'm doing a better job.
Well, I profile people for a living, sort of, and you're the type of person I wouldn't want to have come in and check after I've cleaned the house to see if the house is actually kind of clean, right? You're into the details. What was there a point in any of that along the way where you could have just walked away from this path that you have been on, a different road that was maybe genuinely available to you, and you could have stayed away, but you stayed in it? What you did stay in it. I mean, that's the story. What kept you in it?
Yeah, I never left college, basically, is the and I there were times when I have thought, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? But then what I found from that is there's so many things to do in higher education. You don't have to do the same thing. And so when I was a tenured faculty member teaching, the same set of courses and enjoying it very much, I was like, well, what else can I do? Because I don't know that I want to do this for the next 25, 30 years. And exactly like this, so how do you grow and change and learn in all of that? And And so, I started learning about, um, accreditation, and I started learning about, some of those other things. And each one took me to a new path.
Whoops. That we just blew a circuit. I
Well,
mean, that was such a high power statement. How important it is for us to be laterally, I think interested in other things that we can do. Yeah. But we're back.
we're back. We're back.
We're back. Let's talk about the future. You've got such an interesting and unique, I think, structure and system there. Is it what you've built? Is it exportable, or is it kind of unique to North Alabama?
I think it's definitely exportable. I think that in the state of Alabama alone, there are 500,000 people with some credential, with some college and no credential. And that's just Alabama. You look across.
That's just outrageous, is what I would say.
Yes. So
500,000 people just in one state alone,
yes,
with credentials.
With some college credit, but no credential. They did not
credentials.
Get a degree. Wow. Which means they have student debt potentially that they are not able to pay back very well because they weren't able to use that credential to go to the next economic level. And across the country, there are millions of people who have some college but no credential. So I think that as we're looking at fewer and fewer 18-year-olds coming to college, and fewer 18-year-olds deciding that college is the path for them.
It's a thing.
I think that higher ed needs to expand on its definition of what a college student looks like, and how you serve college students. When I was a college student, I was traditional right out of high school, went to college, and the expectation was, and I met that expectation, was that going to college was my job. And so if I needed to study for a test on Friday, then I had to figure out how to study for a test because the test was on Friday. And it didn't matter what happened in my life, that test was on Friday or the paper was due or whatever. When we talk about adult learners, the test may be on Friday, but their boss may call them in for something. Their kid may get sick and have, their spouse might. I mean, there are so many things that can happen. And so we have got to change in higher education how we think about what a learner looks like and how we support that learning. And yes, learning is a priority, but it's not the only priority. And that's something that I think we really, really have to think about. But I think it is exportable if institutions, and there are some institutions who will never have to do this. They are going to be some of our flagships, certainly some of the Ivies, and some of the ones where they are highly selective. They are bringing in great students, usually directly from high school, and that is fabulous, and they do a wonderful job. But there's a huge space for what we're doing, which is to really look to support those transfer students and those working adults who are also trying to complete a degree or get more information or learn something new, so that they can do a better job in their work, but also for their family, and all of that. And I think that number is where the future of much of higher education is going to go.
It has to be. If you just look at a pie chart and look at the all of the available students to you, I'm going to call that demand. And the fact that you've got an institution that is wide open to that is a moral imperative. In my world, you are doing the right kind of work for the right kind of students for the right reasons. And I couldn't be more proud of just you, your team, your system, and all the things that you're doing there. We're going to shift gears and go to a quick lightning round because I want to see how human you really are doing the superhuman work. So buckle up. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, Doc. Is there a quote that you live by?
So one of my favorite quotes is by Richard Bach, and Richard Bach wrote several things. He wrote Jonathan Livingston Seagull, but he also wrote this wonderful little book called Illusions. And my favorite quote in there is, "Argue for your limitations, and sure enough, they're yours."
Mm, that hits. Worst advice you've ever heard on leading people?
Some of the worst advice I got was in an annual review that I had with a supervisor who could not really truly understand how you can do multiple things, and those multiple things make you a stronger at doing all of those, because there's that synergy. And he asked me, "Catherine, do you want to be an author, or do you want to be a professor, or do you want to be the director of the Teaching Learning Center?" And which I was the director, that was my job. And I said, well, yes to all of them, because if I'm teaching, I'm a better director of the Teaching Learning Center, because I'm doing that work. And if I'm, writing about it in terms of manuscripts or books or whatever, I'm thinking more deeply about these things. So that synergy is very, very important. And, so the worst advice I got from him was, pick one and do it.
How about best advice?
Best advice I ever got was from a president, and I was getting ready for a sabbatical, and I went to sit down. It was a small institution, so I went down and sat with the president to kind of pitch my idea to her, and I told her this idea that I'd worked so hard on, and she looked at me and she said, "No, Catherine, you need to get off campus. You need to go meet other people and do other things." And I didn't even know how to how do you do that? What do you do? And she looked at me and she said, "Catherine, just pick up the phone and call them and see what they've got open, and see what you can do." And so I did. And so I ended up doing a sabbatical in Washington, D.C. with a higher ed agency that was working across the country. Met amazing people, and was able to do incredible things because of all of the support and that. And it truly changed how I, kind of what my next steps were.
Fantastic. Do you have any unpopular opinions that you're eager to defend?
A lot.
Okay. How about just one? Just
So,
one.
one of the things that I've seen in, in the last 10 years or so, is that we've seen an increase in political division, and certainly in higher education, we've seen that. One of the things that I have found is that the political affiliation of an individual person does not necessarily tell you everything you need to know about them. And I have learned that when you get to know people and you build relationships, you can find common ground many, many times. Maybe not always, but you can find that common ground. And so, reaching, as it were, across the aisle in some ways can truly make us stronger.
Yes, more of that, please. If you're not running a university, what are you going to be doing?
Well, so I'd, in all honesty, I'd probably still be a faculty member, but I'm also a glass blower. And so if I wasn't running a university, I would be blowing glass and being in the hot shop and being as creative as I can and really enjoying that. So
That's what I love about this podcasting stuff. You just get to meet the most interesting stories built into people. Glass blowing,
yes.
glass blowing.
Yep.
Athens State, a word or a phrase for the future of Athens State.
Growing. We are growing. Our future is bright. We are meeting the needs of our students.
I wish we had some more. We will find some more time to chop it up, but this recording, we're going to have to bring it to a close. The general lesson that I'm pulling here: you're a differentiated campus. You really are. You are light years beyond, I think, where others are, and just being available and being a solution to a real world need. And higher education has been telling itself, I think, for decades, that the student who stopped out it's somebody else's problem, right? And you are saying we are the solution to that. And go back to that moral imperative thing. It's doing the right things for the right students for the right reasons. So if you're a president, if you're a provost, if you're a board member watching this, I think the question isn't whether whether you have stopped out students in your region. The question is, what does your institution design tell them about whether they're worth finishing? Isn't that, I mean, the internal narrative? If they want to learn more about Athens State, where would they go?
So our website is athens.edu,
Okay.
and we can we're happy to answer questions and talk about what we're doing and how we're doing it, because a lot of what we're doing is working.
And you are a regular on LinkedIn, so you can just go find her out there, and she's always snapping good pics of all things that are to be celebrated there. That is the show, folks. This has been a good one. Thanks again, Doc, for joining us today, and best to you in all things ahead. Peace, friends, and yeah, keep those Dukes up.